At 61, Jim Carrey finally sat down for what he called his last interview. The man who spent his life making the world laugh was ready to tell the truth. For decades, fans felt there was something dark hiding behind his wild humor. In 2025, he admitted they were right. He revealed he had been on Prozac since the 1980s, fighting what he called a low-level despair that never went away. But the real shock came when he talked about his father's suicide attempts and his own breaking point. After hearing it, you can't watch his movies the same way again. Jim Carrey was born on January 17, 1962, in the small town of Newmarket, Ontario. He was the youngest of 4 kids, growing up in a loud home where the bills were always overdue and the stress never stopped. His father, Percy, was a talented saxophone player who ended up settling for an accounting job that paid almost nothing. His mother, Kathleen, spent much of his childhood sick in bed. The family name had once been Carr, but Percy's ancestors changed it when they moved to Canada. Inside their tiny home, Jim watched his father give up on the life he wanted. Percy had the soul of a musician but spent his days behind a desk. Jim learned early that even good people could fall through the cracks. When he was 8, he found comfort standing in front of the mirror, twisting his face into shapes that made his siblings cry with laughter. At 10, he was so confident he wrote to Carol Burnett to tell her he was already a master impressionist. She sent back a polite form letter, but to Jim, it felt like the world's biggest encouragement. At school, he turned every class into a stage. He imitated teachers, movie stars, anyone he could. Kids called him Rubber Face, and for a boy living under constant financial pressure, those laughs felt like gold. Then everything collapsed in 1975. The factory where Percy worked shut down without warning. Percy sent out 73 job applications and got rejected every time. Their savings disappeared. Medical bills piled up. Percy finally took a janitor job cleaning the same kind of factory he used to work in as an accountant. Jim was 13 and watching his hero mop floors for $4 an hour. The humiliation was crushing. Within months, the family lost their house. For 2 years, they lived in a yellow Volkswagen camper near Lake Ontario. Percy and Kathleen slept inside, while Jim and his brother slept in a tent outside, even in freezing winter nights. They washed up in gas station bathrooms before school. Sometimes Jim pulled expired sandwiches from dumpsters to heat on the van's tiny stove. To survive, the entire family worked night shifts cleaning floors for $32 a night. Jim went to school during the day, exhausted and ashamed of his clothes. At 15, his mother's health collapsed even further. Jim began missing school, and at 16 he dropped out to work full-time. He cleaned floors all night, then came home to take care of his mother, lifting her, washing her, feeding her, and making her laugh so she wouldn't cry. On the outside he joked, but inside he was terrified. The breaking point came in 1982 when Jim found his father unconscious in the bathroom after swallowing a bottle of pills. Percy admitted it wasn't the first time. He had tried twice before during the years they lived in the van. Jim carried that fear for the rest of his life, worried that the same darkness lived inside him. Even through all the chaos, something told him to keep trying. When he was 15, Percy drove him to Toronto's Yuck Yucks Comedy Club for his first real performance. His mother dressed him in a bright polyester suit because she thought that's what comedians wore on TV. The act bombed. Nobody laughed. But Percy still drove him home with quiet pride. At 16, Jim completely quit school. He worked long factory shifts, slept in the van between jobs, and practiced comedy during breaks to stay sane. He had once been a straight-A student. Now he felt angry, lost, and trapped, but comedy kept him breathing. His family was falling apart. His mother became addicted to painkillers, his siblings drifted away, and his father was sinking deeper into depression. Jim remembers sitting at the dinner table while his mother said things like, "My brain is deteriorating fast," or, "I could die any time." Those words shaped him more than he ever admitted. At 17, he earned his first $20 for a comedy set, a tiny amount, but proof that his dream wasn't impossible. In 1980, he auditioned for Saturday Night Live, convinced he was finally getting his big break. But the producers rejected him before he even met Lorne Michaels. The rejection crushed him. He would try 2 more times, in 1983 and 1986, and get rejected every time. Behind the humor, Jim was drowning. He later admitted that when he was young, he sometimes hurt himself just to feel something real. A documentary filmed years later showed footage so raw it stayed locked away for nearly 20 years. In 1981, at 19, he got his first TV role in a small Canadian movie called Introducing Janet, later renamed Rubberface. It wasn't a hit, but it gave him something to hold on to. That same year, with only $200 in his pocket, he left Canada for Los Angeles. He slept on couches, lived off free food, and performed anywhere he could. By 1982, he was on stage at the Comedy Store. One night, Rodney Dangerfield spotted him and invited him on tour. Jim spent that year performing for thousands of people, but still eating once a day because he couldn't afford more. He got small TV roles, barely earning anything. In 1984, he landed a sitcom called The Duck Factory, but it was canceled quickly. In 1985, he starred in Once Bitten, which made $19 million on a tiny budget, and people finally started to notice him. But at the same time, he fell into bad habits, marijuana, cocaine, and a lifestyle that pushed him deeper into exhaustion. The constant rejections from SNL only pushed him to reinvent his comedy. He created wild, exaggerated characters no one else dared to try. One of them was Fire Marshal Bill, the character that would later explode into fame. In 1990, everything changed. Jim joined the Fox show In Living Color. From the start, his energy was electric. He created more than 120 sketches over 5 seasons, but Fire Marshal Bill became legendary. It was the first time a white comedian became the breakout star of a show built around black comedy icons. Behind the scenes, he pushed himself too far. He gained and lost weight constantly, threw himself into furniture, bent his body unnaturally, all for a laugh. The show was huge, and Jim was paid well, but his body was breaking down. He injured his ankle during a sketch and still kept working. To get through the long weeks, he started relying on Adderall. His marriage also fell apart. Melissa Wolmer, who had been with him before the fame, filed for divorce in 1995, saying the fame, strip clubs, and long nights changed him. The show itself started facing pressure from the network, and after years of fighting, Jim finally left. Then, in 1994, he became a movie star overnight. Ace Ventura exploded at the box office. The film cost $15 million and made more than $70 million. Jim improvised almost 40% of his lines. "Alrighty then," suddenly became a global catchphrase. That one movie turned him into a superstar. His pay jumped from $350,000 to $7 million for Dumb and Dumber, and then to $20 million for The Cable Guy. But inside, he was falling apart. During the Dumb and Dumber promo tour, he had a nervous breakdown. He admitted to using cocaine, hallucinating, and feeling like he was hiding behind a mask. Not the special effects one, a real one. The mask of a man pretending to be happy while falling apart inside. Ace Ventura merchandise took over the world. Dolls, shirts, toys, lunchboxes, all with Jim's face. But he wasn't celebrating. In 1995, he sued Warner Brothers for $20 million for using his image in video games without permission. It changed entertainment law forever. He returned for Ace Ventura 2 with a massive $15 million paycheck. But he hated parts of the script. He fought to fix jokes he found offensive. Some still made it in, and activists criticized the movie. That same year, The Mask became a global hit. It cost $18 million and made more than $350 million. Jim spent hours in painful green prosthetics, but it paid off. Dumb and Dumber also became a huge success, making $270 million. Jim improvised some of its most famous lines. But even with all the success, the pressure kept growing. He was sued by Fox for $10 million over In Living Color payments. At the MTV Awards, he collapsed backstage and whispered that he needed a break. Jim Carrey had made the world laugh. But behind the scenes, he was running out of air. When he filmed The Truman Show, the emotional pressure was so heavy that